You're listening to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast, and I'm your host, Britt. Guided by my own intuition, my intention is to deliver genuine conversations centered around health and wellness, spirituality, self-expression, and culture. In this space, I will provide you with real-life stories, theories, and inspiring perspectives to help you uncover and tap into your own true potential. I'm so grateful you've chosen to tune in with me on this mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. Now let's dive into today's journey. What's up, guys? Excited to be on here with you all today. It's been a while. It's funny, I can say it's been a while since I've been on here, having just only launched my podcast just about a month ago. But to be honest, taking a break these last couple weeks, it has been a while because I truly do enjoy being on this space. I enjoy all of my interviewees, chatting with you guys, putting my episodes together. I had mentioned before, for some of those who have listened to some of the earlier intro episodes, about how I had wanted to do a podcast for so long. It took me a while to do that, and I finally did it. So yeah, excited to be on here chatting with everyone. But today I want to talk about some rough topics. It's time to get uncomfortable, face what makes us uncomfortable, and make a change in this world. Upon the death of George Floyd and followed by Breonna Taylor, and then the outbreak of protests throughout our entire country, the cry for help, the painful search for injustice, I decided to pause all of my episodes that I had scheduled for. I didn't feel ethical releasing any of them. While I love all of my guests and am so grateful for those who I've already interviewed, those who I have planned to bring on here and everything, health and wellness is a huge, huge, huge passion topic for me. It was one of those things where I didn't feel comfortable releasing my episodes. It felt like a trivial conversation. While yes, they are meaningful, the stories are impactful, the guests who I've interviewed, they are amazing human beings with incredible stories that reach so many people in different ways. For the time that was going on in our world, the topics, what was taking place in every city, and just my overall compassion and empathy for those of the Black community, the people in color, those of different ethnicities and races, and more importantly, the Black community right now, it didn't feel right to release what I had planned to release. And I will be releasing those episodes here in the next couple weeks or so, because while there is such an injustice taking place in our country, I also was reminded a couple days ago that there still are people who are hurting in so many different ways and are searching for senses of connection right now. This isn't business as usual, go back to business or anything like that. We need to continue the chatter, continue the movement, continue the change, because Black lives do matter. But within that, there are also other people who are struggling with mental health issues, with chronic illness, with their own depressions, anxieties, all the things that take place. I mean, this life is not some prepackaged tour. Life is a journey. It has its ups and downs. And I realized that while there is so much wrong going on in our communities and in our country, there also are a lot of people out there suffering as well who may benefit equally from hearing stories about others' recovery and chronic illness and spirituality, and just enlightening different minds in all different ways. Because while we're all feeling what's going on, we all also have our own lives that we are trying to work through at the same time. So I don't want any of this to come across as insensitive or that I don't care about the Black communities or anything like that, because I do. They hold a very, very special place in my heart, which I'm going to talk about here on this episode. I just did want to bring a little bit of light and awareness and an understanding that the work is not over. The work is only just beginning. And honestly, as much as I hold space in my heart for the Black community, and I have a lot of friends who are Black, I've had coworkers, acquaintances, for me, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't see color because I think that's BS. I do see color. I know when someone is black, if they are brown skin, if they are Chinese or Indian or German or whatever have you. I see all of that. I see all of those differences, just as I see the fact that I have blonde hair and my husband has brown hair. What I'm trying to say is that I see color, but I don't see the differences in people of color, of different skin tones. To me, there is no difference. We are all human beings and we all have a right to live as human beings. We're all unique. We all have our own stories. And yeah, there's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of shit that has been going on, and it sucks. It's unfair. I've really just been kind of digesting everything these last couple weeks. It's been a lot. It's been very eye-opening. It's been painful. It's been sad. It's been a lot. To say I don't feel what's going on would be a lie, because I do feel what's going on, but I don't feel it. I don't carry the capacity to feel it as if I were a Black woman or a mom to a Black son or a sister to a Black brother or whatever have you, because of my skin tone and because of my privilege and my privilege of growing up as a white girl. And I've lived a really privileged life that I think I've probably taken for granted, and I haven't realized it. And there's been a lot that has gone on throughout our country. This isn't the first time that we're hearing of this. However, I think it's great that it's being brought to our attention, and people are caring and people are trying to make a change. And that's beautiful, because all we can do is try. And I really hope that the momentum from all of this doesn't just go away. I hope the energy continues. I hope we all continue researching and educating ourselves and just trying to really make a stand and make a difference and make sure that things get changed for the Black community. Because, like I was saying, I try so hard to put myself in other people's shoes all the time. However, given my life and given the privilege that I've been so fortunate to live, I still can't put myself in the shoes of the Black community. I can try so hard to use my imagination to try to feel what they feel. I can't, and that pains me. It pains me so much to think of that. I attended a workshop earlier this week called Wellness for All that was held by EbonyJanice and Robin Eucalyptus, two extremely motivational and inspirational women in the health and wellness space. And EbonyJanice talks about using the white imagination to collectively heal and dismantle racism. And I just love what she has to say, what she stands for. She's a very, very empowering Black woman. And when she talks about using the white imagination to collectively heal, it's using our imaginations to imagine a world where there is peace for all. If you were to close your eyes right now and take yourself to a happy place, to a calm place, a place where your soul just really resonates. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Who's with you? What faces do you see? Who's there enjoying the space with you? And in the words of EbonyJanice, do you see color? When you're in this happy place, this place of bliss, what do you see? Do you see color? Do you see different races? Because if you don't, that's where the problem lies. If we aren't even able to find equality within our own imagination, how are we supposed to find it in our realities? It makes you think. I just think, her work is so profound. I will link some of her notes and work in the show notes for sure, so you guys can connect with her further. But just that little bit right there that I just told you, coming from her work of utilizing white imagination to collectively heal, I think is so powerful. And I hope some of you will really just kind of resonate on that and think about it. Another thing Ebony chats about is really when we start opening up and doing the work and asking ourselves the hard questions, the best place is to really start with our ancestors, and more ancestors than just our parents and our grandparents, but the ones who came long before us, years and years and years ago, trying to, whether you're tapping in spiritually, having conversations with your grandparents, with your own parents, both the good and bad ancestors as well. They all make us up. Don't only focus on the ancestors who you kind of hold in the limelight or who you connect with further. Go chat with the ancestors who maybe aren't those golden tickets, so to say, and start getting their opinions, because we have to all understand why we think the way we do, why we've been preconditioned to certain dialogues in our heads, and start opening that up and start seeing where it stemmed from, so that we can all start healing, because we really can't make these changes in the outside world if we're not healing ourselves to begin with, and healing the dialogue, healing some of the preconditioned nature. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I wouldn't hold guilt, wouldn't hold anger, wouldn't hold anything against those who came before us, because they were only doing the best they could with the information that they knew at the time, or what they had learned, or what the media spun them to learn, or their own communities. I mean, we're all human, we're all constantly growing, but we as a collective society, with where we sit in 2020, I do believe we have the power to heal, we have the power to open up, and it's really time to. We've been living way, way too comfortably, a lot of us, for far too many years, and it's time to change that. And when I say a lot of us have been living far too comfortably for far too many years, I'm talking about myself. 100%. I never would have ever viewed myself as someone who was quote unquote labeled racist. I always said that I was not racist, which we'll get into this in a little bit. I'm in process of reading the book How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi, and he really just goes into so eloquently that racist and non-racist is more or less the same thing. It's being anti-racist, and we will jump into that later. But first, just looking back on myself and some of the reflections that I've put in these last couple of weeks, it's hard. This isn't an easy conversation for me to say right now. It's not going to be an easy conversation for me to re-listen to and for me to then put out publicly, but it's important. It's what matters. I'm willing to start unraveling, doing the work, because we don't have to. We're not going to change the world all at once, but we can start chipping away one small bit at a time with what we are all capable of in the space that we currently sit in. And in the space that I sit in right now is opening up and having this conversation with all of you. And if I do say anything incorrectly, if I've already said something incorrectly, please let me know. I'm on a journey. I'm learning. I'm a student. We never really stop being students, in my opinion. So if I'm not speaking correctly, please let me know. Find me on Instagram at Loving Your Own Soul. Send me an email, lovingyourownsoul@gmail.com. However you need to find me, let me know. I would love to learn. Like I said, we are all students, but yeah, I would have never labeled myself as racist in the past. I never stood for it. I've always been someone where equality issues make me extremely uncomfortable. I mean, they just stab at my heart. And it's more so inequality issues as it stems to not only race, but gender inequality, looking at the inequality with the disabled, your sexual preferences, income inequality, culture, everything like that. I always want everyone to be included, everyone to feel good, etc. However, with that, while it's something that I've never stood for, it makes me so uncomfortable, and just so many feelings of disgust, and just a sense of, I don't even really know how to say it, just utter disgust at those who like to highlight the faults in people or the differences in people. It's something that I don't stand for. However, I have never been actively against it. I might have been against it in choosing to not partaking in that conversation if a group of people were saying something about another human that I didn't believe to be true or that I saw to be unjust. I maybe didn't say anything. Maybe I walked away from the group. And that is not enough. That is why we sit where we are today. I never actively tried to really question it. I kind of just thought, man, that's such a shame that those people feel that way. And even judge them a bit myself, which me judging them for their own judgments, that's not helping anything. That's just being part of the problem. That's being complacent. Obviously, nothing has changed. So I would say I'm 100% a cause to the problem. And that's why, with George Floyd's unfortunate death, his murder, as I would like to better call it, sitting in silence is not okay. Sitting in silence is complacency, and it's time to speak up for all of us. So, I sit here, not trying to beat myself up or anything like that, but it's just, yeah, it's being vocal, it's opening up, it's talking about it. And yeah, I haven't been actively against it. And I feel shame in understanding that. But at the same time, in a weird way, and I don't want any of this to get taken out of context because that is not my intent. There's no ill will here or anything like that. But in a way, I am grateful for this opportunity to learn and shift. I wish I could take back all the pain, all the suffering, the deaths, the murders, everything that have taken place from police brutality and inequality issues and racial injustice and white supremacy and everything that has flooded our nation for far too long. However, for me to sit where I sit today in the year of 2020 and to hold the capacity and the ability and to be able to find the resources and educate myself and then figure out the best way for me to truly utilize my white privilege in making a change and changing things for the Black community, I am grateful for the opportunity. I truly am. And if you don't understand that, like I said, please reach out to me. I'm not meaning any ill will or anything within this conversation. It's just simply how I feel right now today in the space I sit. And per doing more work, I might feel differently 6 months, a year from now. And that's great. We're all evolving. I don't believe any of us are truly stuck in the current place that we sit in. Change is capable for everyone, but where I sit, that is how I feel. And, along with it, with this conversation, I had felt as well while I sat quiet for a couple weeks, digesting, learning, researching, like I said before. There's also a big part of me that was scared to have this conversation because I didn't want to have it incorrectly. There was no perfect way to have it, but I had to build up the confidence because it is an uncomfortable conversation. And it's a shame that we've let this conversation become so uncomfortable for so many years. But for me, I did. I had to talk myself up and say that it's okay. And if I don't say something, change can't happen because I'm just another person not advocating for change. And I am advocating for change. And I want there to be change. And I see change coming in the future and I envision it. And it brings me so much hope for just who we are as a human species. And my role here with my platform that I've created, I talk about loving your own soul, and loving your own soul is so important. It's so important to love and appreciate who you are in this current human body experience, but it's also important to love everyone around you as well, because you're not done doing the work if you can't find the ability to appreciate everyone around you. We are all just humans. And when I talk about loving everyone around you, I mean that per your skin tone, per your sexual preference, per your disability, per your indifference. I mean, for me, I felt uncomfortable before in my lifetime, and I've said how I've lived a very privileged life, but at the same time, I've been the odd man out in plenty of situations, and I've hated that. It's brought me so much angst, unrest, uncomfortable. I definitely went into my shell, wanted to hide, wanted to not be there. And when I say I've been uncomfortable or been the odd man out in plenty of situations, I've been someone who's held a different viewpoint than the group around me. I've been the friend who's 4 inches taller than the other four friends that she's with and feels like the giant. I've been the different person. I've been the girl with glasses at age 11 when nobody else was wearing glasses. I've been the girl who wasn't willing to make fun of the chubby kid in class when the other four girls around her were making fun of the chubby kid in class. And I know it sounds like, oh, okay, girl, go cry me a river. Your life hasn't been that hard. And you're correct, it hasn't been. But as a human being, I've still experienced those feelings of feeling uncomfortable and feeling like the odd man out. But the difference is that there was no fear associated in those feelings of feeling uncomfortable. I wasn't fearing for my life. Sure, there might have been a little bit of trepidation of losing my friends or confrontation or just that questioning in the back of my mind of why am I different? I'm not supposed to be different. I want to fit in. I want to be just like everybody else. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? We're all supposed to be just like each other, right? No differences at all. But with that, I've never felt the fear. I didn't fear for my life the way that the Black community fears for their life. And that's the difference. That's the difference that makes me so uncomfortable to just even try to imagine what that is like for them. So when I talk about loving yourself, loving all souls, it is so important because we are all one. We are all the same. And there are certain races that have been treated so unfairly over the years that it is our job with where we sit today to bring equality for all and to make it be known that Black lives do matter. They 100% do matter. This isn't an all lives matter campaign. While yes, everyone matters, but we need to get to a point that everyone matters on the same level because we're all souls having a human body experience. And I want to say that again because this was a statement that was so profound to me and really opened myself up mentally is the understanding that each and every one of us is simply a soul having a human body experience. And within that, we all have the same different levels of stress and fear and emotions and happiness and sadness and anger. All those emotions reside inside of each and every one of us. Some of us feel things strongly than others, and that's good, that's normal. But there's a big part of our community that fears for their life on a daily basis, and that is not okay. For me, I grew up in the South, in North Carolina, and in a very bubble of a town. It was a great town, beautiful town, loved growing up there, but it was truly a bubble. Not a lot of cultural differences. There were Blacks and whites, it's the South, but there were a lot of racial issues that went on and a lot more racial issues that went on than I really knew or was able to comprehend at the time existed. But there is one story from when I was a freshman in high school that has just never left my mind, and to me just really paints a picture of trying to understand the other side of our society, a side that I can't comprehend it because I don't understand how you can see differences in other people, how you're willing to judge a person based on the color of their skin or where they live or their income level. It makes no sense to me. That it actually makes me feel so angry because I don't understand it. And I'm so grateful that I'm not able to understand it because I would never in my lifetime want to be someone that is judging someone or thinks they're better than someone simply because of their color, the color of their skin, because that is the most incorrect viewpoint you could ever have, ever. And I do look forward to us as a collective unity shifting out of that, but it's going to take time and it's not going to happen overnight. But back when I was a freshman in high school, we lived in a beautiful town, a beautiful neighborhood in a very white area of town, right near the beach, on the water. We had a lot of the old old Southerners, classic Southerners, very, very. My parents were from Pennsylvania, grew up in the Northeast. We moved down to the South, and I think I was 4 years old. So I've kind of lived, always been an East Coaster at heart. Whether I'm a Southerner or Northerner, that's kind of up for debate. I live in Florida, so kind of am just an anomaly sitting out there now, down in Florida. But anyway, we had a lot of the very classic Southerners who were very nice people in our neighborhood. But freshman year of high school, I was dating a boy named Nathaniel who was on the soccer team. He actually came from the Swedish descent traditionally. He lived in America, though. He was very much American, but yes, did have a Swedish upbringing and background to him. His name was Nathaniel, and my parents were at a neighborhood party with some neighbors and chatting as parents do about what each child is up to. And my parents announced the fact that, oh, their daughter has a boyfriend and his name is Nathaniel and he's on the soccer team. And instead of getting the excitement or the oohs and ahs and the little gossip that everyone wants to do because who's not proud of their child, the host of the party and somebody who lived 4 doors down from us said, well, do you think it's safe for him to come into the neighborhood? And my parents, confused, paused for a moment. They said, what? What do you mean? And they said, do you think it's safe for him to come into the neighborhood? Has he been to your home yet? And my parents, still confused, my dad said something to the air of, please explain to me what you're asking. And he or she, I don't know which host of the party it was, responded, well, he's black, isn't he? Nathaniel, that's a black boy's name. And wow. Yeah, my parents, completely dumbfounded. To be honest, I don't remember how the story went from there, except that I know they did correct them that no, he definitely was not a black boy, and it shouldn't matter if he was or if he wasn't. If that's who I was choosing to date and he made me happy, great, that's the decision. And more importantly, that if he were a black boy, that would not make it unsafe for him to come into the neighborhood simply by the color of his skin. But that story just pains my heart. I mean, it's like a dagger through my heart because that is the mentality that so many of our fellow Americans, I mean, our neighbors, literally our neighbors, carry in them. And it's disgusting. And we need to change that. We need to help educate. It is our duty with where we stand and the resources that we have to change that mentality and to make it safe for the Black community to live here in America. Because right now, it's unsafe for them. And, I spoke about the word fear and how I feel. I've been in situations where I felt the odd man out and understand that little bit of being different, quote unquote, but I've never known fear. I recently, down here in Florida with your license plates, your the tag that goes on the plate, your registration, I believe it is called. Mine down in Florida, it expires with your birthday. So mine expired April here 2020, in which I renewed and registered on time to get my new April 2021 tag to stick on my license plate to show that I have my car is currently registered, all's good, etc. However that system works, I honestly don't quite understand it, but conversation for another day. However, with COVID and some address changes that I had, my tag got delayed in the mail. May hit, it had not arrived yet. While I had paid and was waiting to get the tag, my license plate showed an expired tag. With that, knowing that if a cop came up to me or got near my car in traffic, he would have the right to pull me over because you shouldn't be driving with expired tags. Now, granted, I had the paperwork with me. I could have easily just shown him my tags are renewed. I'm just waiting to get them. I haven't gotten the sticker yet. It's lost in the mail, etc. Well, June had then hit and I still hadn't gotten my tags. So I am someone who I don't enjoy having confrontation with the police force. I don't know why. It must be something from a past life or a past incident. I can't pinpoint it in this time, but just the idea of running into the police makes me extremely nervous. It always has. I have no idea why. I really have no reason to feel that way of the person who I am embodying and sit in this space, but it's just always made me nervous. So within that, I have been so nervous the last month and a half to be driving around out of the fear of getting pulled over. And I was telling my husband, I'm so scared to drive because I don't want to get pulled over. And then it suddenly hit me that I'm nervous about getting pulled over, but I know that if I get pulled over, nothing will happen to me. I don't have the fear that the Black community has. I don't have the fear that if I get pulled over, I might get taken to jail because of the color of my skin. If I get the wrong policeman or woman, I may not live another day. That fear of leaving my home does not exist. And it was just a really powerful realization for me to think of and put myself in the shoes of the Black community and how that must feel every single day. This was a very short period of time that I lived in my life, experienced in my lifetime. But to literally leave my home every single day in a state of fear is just unfathomable. And with that, not all cops are bad. I have a lot of respect for the police force. I definitely do believe not all of them are bad. I think there's a lot of just unfortunate things that come from the trickle down effect, the way people's beliefs, etc. And I would love to see a better way of being able to work through and figure out who is being hired to protect our communities, to ensure that they are simply protecting our communities and are not doing acts of violence against innocent people. With that, I have zero tolerance for what took place with George Floyd, with the other Black community, and everything like that. That is horrifying, and that needs to be handled appropriately. And I hope that you all will agree with me on that. However, as I say, we are all souls having human body experiences. There are some police who are good, who are there to protect the communities. And at the end of the day, they too have their own families to go back to. We'll get to that later because the 13th on Netflix really kind of gave a little bit of enlightenment to me there. But anyway, where was I going with that? Yeah, just the fear of, leaving your home and then in understanding the amount of stress and cortisol that runs through the body on a daily basis. I mean, I feel it because I'm working through different anxieties and quote unquote limiting beliefs in my head of not doing enough, not performing enough, and things like that, which are very trivial because I'm not fearing for my life on a daily basis. It is a very different level of stress and a constant state of stress that the Black community lives in. And on top of that, too much stress wears down your health and is so bad for your health. So the health of Blacks alone is jeopardized. I mean, even if you just want to go to different inequality issues, like, because where you live is a determining factor of opportunity for your access to education, employment, housing, fresh food, outdoor space. And all of those factors are huge contributing factors to your health, let alone the amount of stress of just fearing for your life on a daily basis that exists. And it's really sad because there is a health inequality issue between Blacks and whites. There's no doubt about it. I mean, even if we're looking here at COVID recently, the disproportionate death rates of Blacks to whites. The Blacks have higher rates of hypertension, diabetes, obesity, which are all risk factors making the COVID outcome that much worse. And yes, of course, anyone can have these diseases, but the difference is there's a burden of disease on the Black population, which really gives way to the issue of more of a structural inequality. But I mean, even as we are looking at COVID, like I said, the environment with where you live is a factor of health. So, in addition to those high stress rates, living in a condition where there's lack of stability in healthy food supply for the Black communities and neighborhoods is so detrimental to your health. And the national poll of healthy aging actually showed that food insecurity disparities by age, health status, race, ethnicity, education have worsened by our latest pandemic. So it was already bad, and now it's that much worse, which leads to poor health. And There really is a health inequality going on between blacks and whites here in America. I mean, we see in insurance, especially when it looks comes to maternal health for the racial when we're looking at racial and ethnicity differences. A study actually found that half of all black, Hispanic, and indigenous women had a discontinued insurance coverage between preconception and after delivering babies, compared to white women was only a fourth of white women incurred that, which is so sad. And even there's a difference in the cost of dying as well. There are various Medicare stats out there found that it's more expensive for the blacks and Hispanics when it comes to the cost of death. The last 6 months of life are $7,000 more expensive to the system for blacks and $6,000 more expensive to Hispanics. So why is this? There's insurance differences, healthcare coverage, cost of dying, the the living conditions that these communities live in is detrimental to their health, let alone their stress levels, because they fear every day that one of their family members isn't going to make it home. Their friend's not going to make it home from work. They're not going to make it out on the street. And it's just so sad. It's sickening. And there needs to be a change. And, as I'm saying that there needs to be a change, one of the things I haven't really talked about is all of the protests that took place in effect of George Floyd's death and murder. I keep saying his death. He was murdered. It's awful. In my opinion, the protests and the acts of violence are absolutely justified. Let me rephrase that. I don't mean the acts of violence towards the protesters. The police brutality is absolutely unjust. That is one of the most horrific things to understand. The different groups who came out to act upon violence is not okay. None of that is okay. What I'm trying to say that I do justify and reason with is the protesting. A lot of the protests were peaceful. The looting, some of the terrorizing and things that took place, it's awful. It's a shame. As a business owner myself, I would be crushed, and those people do not deserve that. But the blacks do not deserve to have family members and friends innocently murdered on American soil. And a lot of the demonstrations and things that took place were a cry for help. They didn't want to destroy property, trash businesses, etc., etc. We all know everything that took place. It wasn't some animalistic behavior. It was a last resort. Their voices have not been heard for so many years. It was a cry for help. And I really hope that more people can try to understand that. Yes, I will vouch for peace all day long. I do not believe violence is the way to solve problems. I'm not saying that violence is the way to solve problems. For those of you who know me, I am not someone who fights. I like to operate at a very level voice. I believe that we can solve problems together level headedly. There doesn't need to be violence or anger, any of that. However, in a time of fight or flight, of pure fear, of not knowing if you're going to be the next one whose life is taken, it was simply a cry for help, a way of trying to make a stand. Things hadn't been heard. Their voices have not been heard. The voices have not been heard previously, and they were doing the best that they could with the situation that they had on their hands. And I do truly believe that from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that people will one day be able to understand the intentions that were underlying beneath a lot of it. And on a beautiful side, so many big cities in America have seen so many peaceful protests. I think it was LA, this beautiful bird's eye shot of just hundreds and hundreds of people marching down the streets, everywhere. I mean, it's been everywhere. The momentum that has carried on shows that hopefully change will be made. And there are small changes that are being made in different cities throughout the country. And I just think that is fantastic. Things aren't going to change overnight. It'd be amazing if they could. It's going to take time, but seeing small acts is huge and it's super exciting. And I hope a lot of people feel motivated by that and will continue the work that we are all doing. And when I talk about all of us doing work, we're all going at our own pace. Everyone deals with things differently. And I think with social media, there's a lot of pressure out there of everyone needed to make a stand, make a voice, be someone. I think there were some people who kind of caught on the bandwagon who maybe don't stand for anti racism. And it was just the thing to do for a week. And that's a shame, but I do believe that everyone goes at their own pace and we're not going to change this overnight. There's no need to suddenly go on to Netflix and binge watch every single Black Lives Matter show or movie that's on there. Buy all the books. In COVID, we all jumped the gun and bought all the toilet paper, all the hand sanitizer. Like, let's not do that for Black Lives Matter. Let's do the work and create long lasting change. This is more than just a 3-week movement. This is more than just the month of June 2020. There's so much more to this. So I hope that those listening, first of all, take the pressure off yourself. Like, we don't need to change the world overnight. It would be amazing if we could, but in reality, we need long lasting change, just like a fad diet. Don't let this be just a trend, just a social media movement, because it is so, so much more than that. And in the process, whatever pace you are going is great, and keep researching, keep educating yourself, but also take time to ask yourself the hard questions. Think about things, think about conversations at your dinner table, at other people's dinner tables. What did you learn in school? What were your stances? Do you even hold a stance right now? Ask yourself those questions. Try to figure out what would happen if one of your friends was murdered, one of your family members. What would that be like? And imagine that, in America, land of the free, we're not all free. And a lot of us haven't been free for a really, really long time. And social media is such an amazing tool and resource to be able to spread knowledge. We're able, with the media and the internet and everything, we're able to understand and see and hear and read so much more than we have been previously. And I think that is such a gift, but it can also be used incorrectly. So when you are choosing to post on social media, what is your intention? Why are you posting what you're posting? Are you doing it because you feel guilty that you haven't posted anything? Are you doing it because you feel like you're making a change because that feels easy? And that's great. Share stuff. Share stuff on your stories. Share all of it. Post, do whatever you need to do, because I've learned a lot from people sharing on social media, but I haven't just looked at the photo. I've clicked on the links. I've read the articles. I've looked into resources. I've made lists of, okay, what materials do I want to read and educate myself with throughout the end of this year and into next year and the following year? As I look at starting a family soon, how do I want to educate my children? Some influencers and things like that have been doing phenomenal jobs with their accounts, and I've been saving their information, lists of children's books discussing racial issues and inequality and things like that. I've saved that so I can one day use those for my own children. Lists of documentaries to watch and everything like that. If you see a quote or a piece of artwork and it means a lot to you, that's great, share it, but then ask yourself, why does that mean so much to me? What can I do with that? Can I get involved in my community? Because it's so much more than just sharing on social media. So I just hope that all of you are getting uncomfortable with yourself so that we can make a change with what's going on, and that you're not hiding behind social media or feeling that gratification because you shared a Black Lives Matter post and you got 200 likes and you've done something for the movement, because that's not doing anything. The Black Square campaign, I had posted a dark blue square the day before that because I didn't feel I was announcing, first of all, releasing some of my just emotions and feelings and thoughts as to what was going on. I love to write. I've done pages and pages of journaling already and reflecting on this issue. But I wanted to share that I would not be releasing any podcast episodes for a while. And then the next Tuesday, the day immediately following after I posted that, the black squares came out and everybody started posting the black squares, which is fine. I get the movement. But at the same time, for me, I chose not to. On my personal, it wasn't a movement that resonated with me. That doesn't mean I'm racist, I'm for police brutality or anything like that. I am so anti racist and I'm so proud to understand the true meaning of what that means and how to start taking action in the anti racism movement. But for me, I chose not to because it didn't resonate with me. It wasn't something that felt good, and that's okay. So do what feels good to you, do what matters to you. But again, what is your intention behind it? If I were to post the black square, I felt like I was doing it because I was supposed to. And there are no rules. We don't have to do anything except be there for ourselves and be there for each other and show up for the world. Which, speaking of anti racism, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi is such a good book. I have it on Audible right now because I believe all the actual books are sold out, as many are. And in his book, he talks about the difference of anti-racist and racist. Ibram defines racist as one who is supporting a racist policy through their actions or inaction or expressing a racist idea. I keep stuttering a lot today. I apologize. Obviously, I'm a little nervous about having this conversation, but that's good. Shaking it up. Meanwhile, he defines anti racist as one who is supporting an anti racist policy through their actions or inaction or expressing an anti racist idea. Supporting an anti racist policy, expressing an anti racist idea. In the book, he goes on to say that for those of us who say, I'm not racist, you basically are racist. Doing nothing makes you racist. The change that will happen is through being anti racist, actually taking action against racism. Please read the book because I do not want to butcher any of his ideologies and philosophies, and just verbiage is so eloquent. I actually cannot wait to get the paperback version of the book because I enjoy listening to it, but I don't quite get the same effect as reading a book and highlighting and being able to read over the same paragraph 7 times in a row, if that's what I need. But meanwhile, and I've only made it to chapter 2 in the book, but in chapter 2, he goes on to talk about dueling consciousness as it relates to the white body versus the black body and the American body, and how the white body segregates the black body from the American body. The black body no longer strives to be the American body, knowing there is no such thing as the American body. Only American bodies are racialized by power. So let that sink in. And, within that, ask yourself too, how can you use your privilege or time, money, and gifts to start supporting an anti racist evolution? Because I do believe that we are in the middle of a revolution and it's going to take time, but we are capable of making change. And that is so exciting because there is a huge wound to be healed. And I look forward to all of us just really working to heal that wound. Within reading the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, I did watch American Son on Netflix, which if you haven't watched it, highly recommend that you do. And within American Son, it brought to light the issues of biracial families and a boy who is biracial, a black mom, and a white dad, and the struggles, a lot of different struggles that take place there, both societal, internal, all kind of things there. But it also did shine a little bit of light as well in police and that they are human too. While, yes, there are a lot of bad eggs out there, no doubt about it. And I don't mean to call them bad eggs because I really don't want to judge the mindsets and learnings that I don't understand. But with where I sit right now, I do believe them to be bad eggs. But with that, just as a Black son fears for his life and a Black mom fears for the life of her Black son when he leaves that day, the police are also putting themselves on the front line. And they have families at home too who worry about them being out there because you don't know. Because there are, just like there's bad eggs in the police force, there's bad eggs in the community. I mean, there's a few criminals or whatever you want to call them out there, but the color of their skin isn't making them a criminal. They can be Black or white. Just like in the police, being a white policeman doesn't mean that you're necessarily bad. Now, I do hope that moving forward, more of those in the force will be able to take up different anti racist actions and different things to really be a force in the movement, because they are ones who can be a huge contributor to all of this. And I look forward to seeing different policies and different things take place in that realm. But just to also remember that we are all humans. We're all souls having human bodies, body experiences, doing the best that we can. I watched 13th on Netflix, which, oof, powerful. So powerful. It was really interesting just moving through the different phases of time and history and everything, and understanding how back in the day, the media and some filmmakers, government policies, and things like that almost spun Blacks as bad people, as rapists, as animalistic, which is so backwards, so disgusting. But it just, for me, shined some light on the mindset. And then looking at the people in power and those who were in place and different policies that were established, and how, things didn't end with slavery. Like the end to slavery was almost just a cog in the wheel, unfortunately. I think we think, oh, slavery's over, but no, there's still slavery today. And that's what just really sucks. But with all of that, and kind of getting that lens back through history, it helped me understand maybe some of my grandparents' viewpoints or their parents' viewpoints, and why the other generations maybe think the way they do, and some of the conditioning that took place during their time where they didn't have the materials like we have, or they just didn't have as much information. We truly live in the information era right now. So while I'm not saying any of it's okay, I do have a little bit of empathy in through 13th, understanding why some of us think the way we do. I don't agree with it, but it did shine some light into those different areas. And then it went into 1980 with the uniform crime reporting and all of the drug arrests that were focused on the Blacks, and how many families got separated for during that whole time, and arresting just groups were pulled off the streets in the Black community. And with the drug arrests, for those who are not familiar, I mean, definitely go watch 13th for sure, but just the way in dealing with cocaine, and powder cocaine was more of a white man's drug. So if you were caught with it and you were white, it was, you know, not a big deal. Whereas crack cocaine was labeled as more of a drug found in the Black community. And if you were caught with crack cocaine, the time and sentencing and everything that took place was a night and day difference between a drug that is virtually the same. It's just made differently. And that, again, like, I don't even really have the words for right now. It's just really harsh. It's a really harsh reality, looking at, even different presidents that I had always heard were quote unquote great presidents, and learning the policies that they put in place that were such incorrect policies, and control and propaganda, and the way the media and those in power truly have the ability to grab our minds and make us think certain ways. So with all of that, like I said, I hold I understand, maybe why some generations before us hold viewpoints that they do. But at the same time, I would be crazy if I didn't say that we all don't hold an internal knowing and an intuitive feel. So I hope that moving forward, as we still deal with the media and social media, and sometimes it's so hard to understand what is real and what's not real, that you carry the ability to dig deep and listen to that intuition. And if something doesn't feel right, even if you can't understand it, trust that and educate yourself and trust yourself and research the other way. Research the direction that does make sense to you and try to understand it. There's nothing wrong with, you don't have to agree with everything that everyone says at the table around you. Pose a different opinion or research it and come back with a different opinion later. A lot of these things to me are just so inhumane. And even the way our current leadership is dealing with things for me is so inhumane. I Yeah, no words. It's just inhumane. Um, and there's been inhumane leadership before that, and it is sickening, but we can all make a change and start fighting for what is right for humankind and get the Black community to, I was going to say, get them back to feeling safe, but I don't know if they've ever felt safe. So give them a chance to feel safe. Give them a chance to live the white privileged life, even though I don't think they'd want that, because honestly, like, our life is kind of pretty shitty too with all the different people. So that's not the right language. Give them the chance to live a safe life. Give them a chance to live a life where they don't have to fear for their life on a daily basis, because it's 2020 and we've come so far in the amount of technology and things that exist in today's world. For slavery to still exist is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And vote. The one of the biggest ways that we're going to be able to change this is vote. Vote locally, vote nationally, get out there and vote. It's not just voting for the presidential campaign in November, it's voting for all areas. Start local and move your way up. That's another topic that I don't want to get political right now because we're talking about racial injustice, but some of these things that have taken place have stemmed from different political misfortunes that have happened over time. Within that as well, just talking about 13th, a lot of light was shined on prisons and understanding the profit behind prisons, excuse me, private prisons, and the need to keep them full, and how that is very much a business with a lot of incentives involved, and understanding that corporations actually utilize prison labor to virtually make money off of them. A lot of big time corporations, I actually, power of Instagram, something that somebody shared on Instagram that I saw the post, clicked on it, followed the links, delved deeper into it, was highlighting all the different corporations that have actually used prison labor, including Whole Foods. So health and wellness community, there's not a free pass. There's messed up things in every single industry, and it's just heartbreaking. It is so disgusting. Other corporations that have used prison labor, I don't want to make any of this up, but 99% sure Victoria's Secret was one of them. McDonald's was one of them. AT&T, I believe. Whole Foods was a big one that stood out to me. So many more. Those are just the big ones that I know. Again, I don't want to say a name and make it up if it's not true, but I will link some of this in the show notes again for anyone who wants to do some more research. It's just heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. It's so scary. And even just understanding a lot of this information felt really overwhelming of how unjust our systems are and our policyholders and leadership and everything like that. But at the same time, it's good to know. We need to know. We need to know what is going on. And if something doesn't resonate with us, great. Let's figure out how to put systems in place that do resonate with us. What else do I want to say on this topic? I think that's virtually pretty much it. I'm sure there's parts that I left out. I hope that nothing is taken out of context. If I said anything incorrectly, like I said before, please let me know. My goal was simply to inform, shine some light, and just, yeah, make a statement on it, open up, because staying silent, this is my way of vocalizing. I've tried to do the work on the back end these last couple of weeks, and I felt called to talk about it. So I'm talking about it. I don't want to offend anyone. I hope that nobody takes anything out of context. Everything comes from good intention, and I am 100% for the Black community, and I am done staying silent about it because I didn't realize that me staying silent was simply becoming, I was just a cause to the bigger problem at hand. I didn't have any intention. Like I said, I have Black friends. I love them. Black community members, coworkers. I mean, even when my good friend Chelsea and I, who I partnered with her to launch her new business idea, our new passion project called Daffy, Do a Favor for Yourself. I think episode 2, I believe, is where we talk about that. So if you want to hear from Chelsea and about Daffy and her story, definitely go check that out. But when we were forming Daffy and looking to launch Daffy, one of the things that really sticks out to me is the entire time we kept saying it is we're trying to help women, but we want to help all women. We didn't want to exclude. We kept saying, how do we make this not feel so white? We're these two white girls, but we want to include everyone. We need, women who are struggling mentally right now or struggling with their inner wellness or their happiness, their well-being, etc., are not just white women. Black women are struggling. Women of different ethnicities, Hispanic, everyone out there is struggling. So one of our big areas that we kept saying the whole time informing it is that we don't want to feel too white because we are two white girls. We're not excluding anyone of any color. We want to help everyone achieve a sustainable inner wellness so that they can better give back to this world, do their part, find their purpose, etc. And that's just something in going through everything the last couple of weeks has really stood out to me as well, because I think that says a lot about where our hearts lie. And I look forward to us really expanding Daffy and growing it and actually putting legs behind figuring out how to make it all inclusive. And I hope that more businesses, more brands, I know there's a few out there already taking action right now, which is amazing, but I hope everyone starts looking at their own business, their own livelihoods, their own work, and figuring out how can they make it all inclusive, and all inclusive with good intention. If you feel like you are supposed to, then you have more work to do. And I'll just leave it at that. And yeah, it's been a crazy couple weeks. I do believe as well that the timing on all of this was not coincidental. A huge I mean, there have been so many acts of police brutality and shooting of Blacks from police and everything prior to Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. I mean, we've had the Eric Garner, the Michael Brown, so many, too many to name. And I really think that this whole uproar was a long time coming. With COVID, I think it almost affected us all more because it resonated so much deeper with us, in that we had all slowed down enough, thanks to COVID, to be more present in our lives, paired with lots of unrest, different emotions. A lot of us lost jobs or significant amounts of money. It's just been an emotional roller coaster these last 3 months, we'll call it. But when all of this took place, I do truly believe that we had all slowed down enough from the normal rat race to be truly present. And the murder of George Floyd hit home to so many of us because we weren't distracted by other things. We didn't have our normal distractions that we could just understand and feel for what happened. I'm not saying we've never felt for what happened before. We just felt it at a much deeper level, in my opinion. And I don't think that's a coincidence by any means. I think timing is everything. There's a divine plan in place, the matrix, et cetera, et cetera. There is a lot of change happening and taking place here within us. But I do truly believe that all of this is just kind of an effect of one another. And yeah, our eyes were open. My eyes were opened up internally. And I'm so grateful for that. I feel so weird saying that I am grateful for that. I know I said that a little bit earlier because I didn't want any of it to come. It's just awful, and I don't want this to come off poorly. But I am truly grateful for this opportunity to shift and learn. And I am so grateful for all of you who took the time to listen to this very drawn out chatter of me. Just talking about race and racial injustice and my feelings on it. And like I said, please hit me up if I said anything incorrectly. Call me out if you have questions. I will jump back on here when the time is right and do another episode, catching up, relaying more information that I've learned. And yeah, just please know that I love you all. I feel for all of you. And I hope some of this really sinks in. And I encourage you to do the work. And with that as well, I keep saying, reach out to call me out if I say anything incorrectly, but also reach out if you want to learn with me. Let's start a study group. Let's do this thing together. We accomplish way more as teams than we do siloed. And it's time to make a change. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the opportunity. If any of you have different ideas of how I can get involved in my local community or things you'd like to see me do with this platform, etc., please let me know as well. I would love to hear from you. You can connect with me on Instagram at loving your own soul or send me an email at lovingyourownsoul@gmail.com and we will go from there. Thank you all so much for being here, for listening to me, for being a part of the change. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. And I also honor each and every one of you for where you stand on this journey. And please know that doing the work is so worth it. So I love you guys, and we will chat with you soon.